All right, here we go. So we've got Code with Cy Scott. That's Cy Scott right there.
Right here.
Yeah. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Doing great, Seth.
So let's kind of give folks the background here. If they only know you from Headset, they should also know you from Leafly, shouldn't they?
That's right. That's right. So with Headset and Leafly, both cannabis industry companies, started Leafly back in 2010. Really went out to solve a problem, help demystify cannabis for the mainstream consumer. Felt like we did a great job there, and then shifted over to the data side with Headset.
All right. Data is what we need for any industry. It's also what we need for artificial intelligence. It's the oil of artificial intelligence. That's why we're calling this code. Oh, wait, did I say something that's incorrect?
No.
I saw your eyebrows go up. Maybe you weren't expecting me to.
No, so far so good.
So far so good. So data is the oil, but let's go back to Leafly and talk about that data. So, on day one, how much raw data did you have? What did you have to find? And then what did you build? I'm asking you very large questions there.
Yeah, no, great question. So with Leafly, day one, no data. We had to start by seeding Leafly with our own content and reviews. It's kind of the age-old, chicken or the egg problem. Often happens with crowdsourced data platforms. Reddit, which I'm sure you're familiar with. I remember reading an article from way back where Reddit was responsible for posting and upvoting all of the content just internally until they could generate enough interest where people came to do that. So that was really kind of our model. We did the research. We added, it was 50 strains. So the strains that, are probably the most well-known, we plugged in, we did our research, and we did our ratings of those strains. And then from there, consumers could come in, and then they started providing their own data. And so the data set went from, a handful of reviews and content that we provided to crowdsource, where we were dealing with, hundreds of thousands of users submitting hundreds of thousands of cannabis reviews.
How then can you harness kind of user-generated content? It's fine for you to harness your own. You know exactly what you're doing, but then here comes this chaos, right?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So back then, relatively rudimentary analytics, I would say, on the data, really just aggregating and looking at, how people ranked things, how people tagged things, and then just aggregating that up and sharing that out with the audience. I think since then, there's been a lot of progress on things like sentiment analysis, like just pulling insights out of, copies of text where it's like, this is a positive or this is a negative. Back in 2010, that stuff was bleeding edge, very cryptic and hard to do. Now, stuff like that, you can get source code, out of the box tutorials. It's like baseline basic tutorial stuff to do that. So I'm sure that, Leafly is leveraging more and more of that these days, but early on it was pretty rudimentary.
I just want to make sure you've got a wonderful Cy Scott accent. You said sentiment analysis.
Sentiment.
Yeah.
Sentiment.
It sounded like you might have said cinnamon analysis.
No, but that sounds pretty interesting.
Sure, if you're a chef. So, okay, so it was early days as far as technology even then, and I'm sure we will realize in the future that this is early days still. But, you were able to kind of take leaps and bounds forward into the current reality with Headset. How much data did you have? Now, you had partners in a little bit with this reality, right? So kind of share with us day one and how it got going.
Yeah, so Headset's a bit different. Headset's more of a B2B product. It starts with retailer and dispensary cooperators. So we work with retailers and dispensaries in different markets. We connect to their point of sale, and that's where our data comes from. So it's all transactional, retail-derived data. So it's very passive in the collection, which is a different model than Leafly, which was, active, like people had to go and submit these reviews. So with Headset, it's passive. So we're having this conversation, things are transacting in Toronto, Canada, and it's getting funneled into Headset. Now, day one, it was a small number of retailers that we started with. And now we're close to 1,000 retail and dispensary cooperators. We've processed close to $7 billion in transactions pulled into the data set. So it's pretty sizable, very different than day one.
And how many, I mean, I might be asking you questions which are, you might not have the information, but why not? How many SKUs are we talking about there?
Yeah, well, when we started, a few thousand SKUs. Now we're close to 700,000 SKUs, which all have to be added to a database that we have, a product catalog as we call it. It's really the canonical database of all the products that are sold in the cannabis industry. So close to 700,000. That's primarily adult use markets, so excluding kind of medical at this point right now. But that's a lot of SKUs, and a lot of those SKUs, a lot of reason for the sizable number of SKUs has to do with the type of product that cannabis is, where you have flower-based product, things like concentrates, and these come in a variety of strains, come in a variety of package sizes, and they cycle in and out. So a strain may be popular today, may not be popular next year. That's not the case with all of them, but with many of them. So that the 700,000 SKUs that we've worked with are not all technically active, but at one point in time they were.
Okay, fair enough. Whether they're active or not, that raw data, that first piece of data, does that come from the manufacturer, or is that something that you suggest? How do we actually kind of uncover what that initial data is, and is that changeable as we go?
Yeah, so as far as the product catalog, we do work with manufacturers. So we'll source, their sales sheets, like if they provide that to us. So if they say, hey, we've got a new product in the market, here it is, we can leverage that. A lot of times we don't have access to that. So we see it for the first time when it's sold at retail. So something will get flagged, we don't recognize what this product is. Let's go do the research and try and sort that out.
Okay. As we go here, how early are we, right? So briefly, day one, we had, we're both realizing.
I know, blowing up.
10 minutes left of whatever. But if Leafly day one, we had to get user-generated content, we pushed it until they kind of came to us and then we went. Where are we in that life cycle of there's 700,000 SKUs? That sounds like a lot, but we're really still at the beginning. It's still early days, or is it more of a mature thing and we can actually kind of compare it to traditional CPG, or where are we as far as reality is concerned?
Yeah, it's pretty mature right now. We're always adding new products. New products are always coming to the market. And that's one of the most exciting things about this space. It's not CPG. CPG does have a lot of product innovation, but not at the pace that cannabis does. It's just crazy what's happening. Like Canada, for example, later this year we'll be launching, Canada Cannabis 2.0 as they're branding it, where they're going to have edibles and they're going to have vapor pens and beverages and all these different product types. So it's all new innovation. So we'll be adding those products as needed. So while we consider it relatively mature, we have to keep up with the pace of innovation in the market.
Interesting. Mature yet rapid growth.
Oh yeah, right. Nonstop.
All right. So I wanted to take the opportunity to compare, we have three different realities here: user-generated content, based on that data, business data, and then, we've got our new Teslas that are roaming the streets here. And it seems to me like the data that goes in and comes out of a Tesla is societal. So personal, business, and then societal data, once we get to smart cities and all of that. When you get, into a car like that, or when you think of a car like that, how do you see that data? What's interesting to you?
Yeah, I mean, for the Tesla example, Tesla's got a lot of sensors. And so you've got cameras. I'm sure it's, recording all sorts of frames of content. You've got driver behavior. So, pressing the accelerator, pressing the brake, turning, and so on. And then you've got obviously like GPS type data. So it knows, where the car is at. So there's a lot you can do with that, obviously. And a lot they are trying to leverage or starting to leverage for the autonomy. I think it's still early days for a lot of it. Some of it seems to be hardware constraints. I know that Tesla recently talked about a new GPU or some CPU GPU hybrid that they're putting together that you can get installed in the cars soon to help with that. But it is pretty amazing the amount of data, and again, very passive, right? It's collected constantly. Cars are driving on the street right now. That data, I'm sure, is getting fed into Tesla to inform some of their work. So yeah, very exciting data set. I'm sure they can leverage it in a variety of ways.
If you were the city of Pittsburgh, last question, what would you be wanting from Tesla? Anonymize it, fantastic, okay. But, here's how we can make Pittsburgh truly a smart city with the assistance of Tesla data. What would you be asking for?
Yeah, I would ask Tesla. I would ask Uber. I would ask any group that has, fleets of vehicles or access to data from fleets of vehicles to start to look at traffic patterns, to really understand, what that dynamic looks like and look for bottlenecks just to keep traffic flowing. I think that would be probably interesting to get data from them. I'm sure that they have that, and to share with the cities could be, good for everybody.
Oh, okay. We'll see if everybody can come together and
Get together, right?
Yeah, kumbaya, and we'll see what happens. Okay,
maybe some money can change hands, I suppose, but
sure.
Everyone hates traffic, so maybe they can find some common ground there.
Money will change hands. So, all right. So this is code. So that's raw data. We'll figure out what the next one is, but I feel like we're doing well here. Thank you very much for the time. Very much appreciated, and can't wait for the next one.
Thanks, Seth.